I'm going to take a change of course, and I'm going to read through a lesson in Likutei Moharan. So Likutei Moharan is the teachings, Likutei, of the Moharan, which is an acronym for Morenu V'Rabbeinu Harav Rabbi Nachman. So our teacher and rabbi, the great Rabbi Nachman. So Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, he was the great-grandson of the Ba'al Shem Tov. So this is a major classic in Breslov teaching. So he was someone that he blazed his own trails in the wisdom and knowledge that he had. The way that he taught, he actually composed books that nobody was able to understand, and he ended up deciding to have them burned, that the world wasn't ready for them. But aside from the bizarre nature of Rabbi Nachman in the Breslov movement that is basically essentially his followers to this day, his teachings are transcend bounds, and you'll see, just getting into this, you'll start to see how he teaches. And a lot of times he teaches from the very odd mystical stories from the Talmud of Rabbi Bar Bachana. But anyway, so this is Likutei Moharan. This is part 1. There's 2 parts to the series. I have the entire set of all of these. I will have affiliate, if you're local and you want to read one. I have affiliate links in the description for maybe some volumes or something like that at Amazon. But anyway, to jump into this is lesson 5, and it says, B'chatzotzrot, with trumpets and the sound of the shofar, shout out before God the King. Psalm 98, verse 6. He says, now each person must say, I want to start out actually and say that this was the lesson that he taught Monday, Rosh Hashanah of the Hebrew year 5563, which is September 27th, 1802. So 1802, that gives you a frame of, he lived a little over 200 years ago. He gave this lecture. He lived to be 38 years old. But anyway, it says, now each person must say, the entire world was created only for my sake. Sanhedrin 37a. Consequently, because the world was created for my sake, I must constantly look into and consider ways of making the world better, to provide what is missing in the world and pray on its behalf. So the verdict is decreed by the destroying angels, and the request is through the ma'amar of the holy ones, Daniel 4, verse 14. In the matter of prayer, there are 2 approaches. Before the decree has been issued, we follow the regular order of prayer, and there is no need to veil the prayers. But after the decree has been issued, our prayers have to be disguised within stories, or disguised in some way, so that the accusing angels stand to the left and do not understand and protest. As it is written, the verdict is decreed by the destroying angels. That is, when it is after the decree has been issued, then the request is through the ma'amar of the holy ones. Then the tzaddikim, the righteous ones, disguise their request in a ma'amar. So the word ma'amar is related to like speech. So like amar, right? So we use the word amar for speaking, like Amar Rabbi Yehuda, or something like that. When somebody speaks, we're saying that person is speaking. So amar is like some type of words, right? But how do we know whether it is before the decree has been issued or after the decree has been issued? We can determine whether it is before the decree or after the decree by means of the mitzvot we perform. Okay, so this requires explanation and thought. So, and this is specifically when a person performs the mitzvot with such great joy that he has no desire for any reward in the world to come. And Rabbi Nachman was extremely prevalent on the teaching of actually living and serving God with joy, and everything you do with joy, right? That was one simcha, right? This is something that he taught in everything. There was joy, right? That he has no desire. So with such great joy that he has no desire for any reward in the world to come. Instead, his only desire is that the Holy One provide him with the opportunity to do another mitzvah as a reward for the first mitzvah, right? Because it says in Perek Yavot, Ben Azai says, he says it right here, I'm sorry. As it is saying in the sages, which was Ben Azai in Perek Yavot, the reward for a mitzvah is a mitzvah, and Perek Yavot 4:2. for he derives pleasure from the mitzvah itself. But opposite to that, the reward for a mitzvah is the ability to perform another mitzvah, but the reward for a sin is the ability to perform another sin. So it snowballs one direction or the other. So this is the difference between the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu and the prophecy of the other prophets. It is similar to Rashi's commentary to Moshe spoke to the tribal heads of the children of Israel, saying, Zeh hadavar, this is the word God has commanded. Numbers 30, verse 2. Rashi explains all the prophets prophesied with ko, thus says God. Ko, thus says God. Moshe achieved even more than they, in that he prophesied with Zeh hadavar, for ko corresponds to a dull-looking glass, whereas Zeh hadavar corresponds to a clear-looking glass. So these two aspects of prophecy are also found in our service of the Creator. There is the person who does the mitzvah for the reward of the world to come. He has no enjoyment from the mitzvah itself. For if he were not given the world to come as a reward, he would not do it. This corresponds to ko, the dull-looking glass. Just like the person who sees something from a distance, so too he performs the mitzvah for the reward it will bring at a distant time after this world. So it says in Psalms 126, verse 6, he who goes weeping on his way carrying a seed bag, Yavo Varina Nose Alumotav. He will come back with songs of joy carrying his sheaves. And this is the psalm that we say right before Birkat Hamazon, after grace after meals, after on Shabbat. So, and the payment of a reward is called Navi, or prophet. This is because the first letters of the phrase that we mentioned in that verse, Yavo Varina Nose Alumotav. So the acronym of that is Navi, right? The payment of reward is also alluded to in the verse itself, as Rashi explains. He goes weeping on his way, carrying a seed bag. He's pained by the mitzvah's performance. He will come back with songs of joy, carrying his sheaves. He will rejoice in the future when he will receive reward for the mitzvot. But the prophet who prophesies with Zeh hadavar does not desire the reward of the mitzvot. Rather, he desires the mitzvah itself. He rejoices so much in its performance that he rejects any kind of reward. We see then that his world to come is the mitzvah itself. This is therefore the concept of Navi, that is the payment of reward, corresponding to Zeh hadavar, a clear looking glass. Just like the person who sees something up close and with a splendidly clear view, so too he enjoys the mitzvah itself, and his reward is right before his eyes. And it is the person who is on this level who performs the mitzvah with such great joy that he has no desire for any reward of the world to come in return, who is able to differentiate between before the decree has been issued and after the decree has been issued. So this is because the mitzvot form a complete construct, and they give life to all the other constructs, whether it be the construct of man or the construct of the world or the construct of the year. For world, year, soul, receive vitality from the mitzvot, as in Psalm 33, verse 4, it says, all his work is done with faith. And also in Psalm 119:86, all your mitzvot are faith. Thus the Holy One is in simple unity with the mitzvot. Therefore, when the Holy One's works are as they should be and in proper order, the Holy One is happy with them and delights in them, as it is written in Psalm 104:31. God rejoices in his works, like a craftsman who makes some vessel. If the vessel is beautiful, then he delights in it. And the joy of the Holy One is clothed in the mitzvot, because they are his unity. Now, when the person who performs the mitzvah with a great joy derived from the mitzvah itself enters into the joy of the mitzvah, he enters into the joy of the Holy One who rejoices in his works. This corresponds to Israel rejoices in its maker, Psalm 149:2. We find, therefore, that if there is any misfortune or harsh decree affecting world, year, soul, then certainly the joy of the Holy One is lessened, as in Genesis 6:6. He grieved in his heart. As the sages taught, when a person sins, what does the Shekhinah say? My head is heavy, my arms are heavy. Sanhedrin 46a. Thus, this person who has entered into the joy of the mitzvah will certainly know by the state of the joy whether it is before the decree has been issued or after the decree has been issued. He can also discern the part of the structure against which the judgment has been decreed. He knows this based on the structure of the mitzvot. If he cannot joyfully perform the head of the mitzvot, that is, those mitzvot are related to the head, he will know that a judgment has been decreed against the heads of world, year, soul. And that's a whole concept in itself, world, year, soul. Okay, it is likewise for the rest of the structure of the mitzvot. As this is the meaning of what the sages said concerning Shabbat. Remember it from the first day of the week. So Shabbat's the last day of the week, but remember it from the first day of the week. So there's something you can do to prepare for Shabbat every day through the week, right? The joy and pleasure of the world to come. So remember it from the first day of the week. Mechilta Yitro 7 and Beitzah 16a. So the joy and pleasure of the world to come, which is an aspect of Shabbat, should be experienced during the 6 days of work. These 6 work days correspond to the performance of the mitzvot, because world year soul were created on them. So you must pay him his wages on the same day before the sun sets. Deuteronomy 24, verse 15. That's referring to someone like if someone's working for you, you're supposed to pay them at the end of the day. It's an odd principle. I mean, they don't do this in businesses today. You have agreements that they're going to pay you at the end of the week or the end of 2 weeks. But it says, you must pay him his wages on the same day. The person's reward will come from the mitzvot themselves before the sun sets, because he does not perform the mitzvot for the reward of the world to come, which is after the sun sets, after his death. So now, the essence of joy is found in the heart, as it is written in Psalm 4, verse 8. You have put joy in my heart, but it is impossible for the heart to rejoice unless a person removes the crookedness of his heart, so that he must have a straight heart. Then he will merit true joy, as is written in, Psalm 97:11. Enjoy for the straight of heart. And the heart's crookedness is made straight by means of thunder. As our sages taught, thunder was only created to straighten the crooked of the heart. Berachot 59a. Thunder corresponds to the voice. A person releases with great force while praying. From this voice, thunder is generated. As stated in the Zohar 3, section 3, 235b, when the voice is released and encounters the rain clouds, the voice is transmitted to the creation. And this is thunder. For thunder is essentially from gevurot, severities. As is written, Job 26:14, who can understand the thunder of his gevurot, his strength? Okay, this is why when hearing thunder we recite the blessing, for his might in gevurah filled the universe. These gevurot are an aspect of might and strength. A person releases the voice with great force, and this voice strikes the rain clouds. That is the aspect of the upper mentalities, mochin. So from where drop after drop descends, as is brought in the Zohar 3, 235b, a well of fresh water and drops from Lebanon. Song of Songs 4:15. From the libunah, the whiteness of the mind. Okay, and when his voice strikes the rain clouds, then the voice is transmitted to the creation. That is the aspect of thunder. This is the meaning of the sound of your thunder was in the sphere, Psalm 77:19. That is the sphere in the mind. For when it encounters the skull, the voice is converted into thunder and is transmitted to creation. So my mouth will speak wisdom, and in the meditation of my heart will be understanding. Psalm 49, verse 4. So this corresponds to my mouth will speak wisdom. The speech that leaves my mouth strikes wisdom. That is the sphere of the mind. As a result, the meditation of my heart will be understanding. That is, the heart will be stirred by thunder. This is because the voice stimulates kavana. Kavana is like intention. Berachot 24b. This is what our sages taught. When a person has fear of heaven, his words are heard. Berachot 6b. For when someone possesses fear of heaven, his voice is converted into thunder. This is because thunder is from the side of Yitzchak, as in the thunder of his gevurot. This causes his words to be heard. That is, the voice is transmitted to the creation. For hearing is linked to the fear of heaven, as is written in Habakkuk 3:2. O God, I heard of your message, I feared. Zohar 3, 230a. And this is the explanation of Geborei Koach, mighty ones, who do his bidding, hearkening to the sound of his word. Psalms 103, verse 20. As the Zohar states, 190a, they merit hearing voices from above. In other words, by means of the gevurot, thunder is generated. This causes the heart to hear. That is, the meditation of my heart will be understanding, as is written in 1 Kings 3:9. Give your servant a hearing heart to judge your people. And then his words are transmitted to creation, thus being hearkening to the sound of his word. This also corresponds to the sound of the shofar. So the shofar, the horn of the ram of Yitzchak. This is Zohar 3, 235b, which is an aspect of the thunder of his gevurot. This then is the meaning of Psalm 89:16. Happy is the nation who knows the shofar's blast. Specifically knows, the word knows, right? Because the the voice hits the mind, corresponding to rain clouds, and is converted into the aspect of thunder. Whoever hears the shofar blown by a man who is God-fearing and pious will certainly have no fear of thunder the entire year. As it is written, with sounds of thunder and lightning you reveal yourself to them, and with a shofar sound you appeared to them. You appeared to them through the sound of the shofar, protecting them from thunder and lightning. But it is first necessary to clear the mentalities of secular wisdom and undesirable thoughts of chametz. So chametz is like, we talk of it in terms of leavening, of bread leavening, something that causes bread to rise, but is connected with other topics, right? So a person must not sour his wisdom with secular wisdom or evil passions, so that the voice emerges clean and pure. It will then strike the upper mentalities and be converted into thunder. But when the sphere of the mind is clogged with impurity, as in Leviticus 11:43, it says, because nit metem, you have made unclean by them, then his voice is not heard. So that verse in Leviticus 11:43, it says, it's referring to eating kosher foods, and it uses the word nit metem, and that word can be seen as two different things. It can be read as making something unclean, but it also can be read as like dulling your spiritual perception, right? That's why we keep kosher, is because it strengthens our spiritual perception. And this is what you've seen in the story of Daniel and his friends when they didn't eat the king's food. They refused it. And they outperformed basically all the sages of Babylon. Okay, so he must also safeguard his fear of heaven, from which the voice emerges, as in the thunder of his gevurot, so that he has no extrinsic fears, but only a fear of the Holy One. This is, where there is no wisdom, there is no fear of heaven. Where there is no fear of heaven, there is no wisdom. Perkei Avot 3:21. And this corresponds to that which our sages have taught. When King Shlomo married Pharaoh's daughter, the angel Gavriel descended and plunged a reed into the sea. This is in Shabbat 56b and Sanhedrin 21b. The explanation is from the devolution of the Gevurot, which corresponds to gold dross, extrinsic fears, he plunged a reed into the sea of wisdom. A kaneh, a reed, is the aspect of the voice released from the kaneh, the windpipe. Thus, because of the secular wisdom and extrinsic fears, the voice remains plunged in the mire of the intellect and will not be transmitted to the creation. But the most important thing is that a person safeguard his mind from becoming chametz. This is Psalm 68:31. Rebuke Hayat, the beast of the reed. As the Zohar in 252a states, break the reed of the het, the letter het in Hebrew, which is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and make it a hey, which is the 5th letter of the alphabet, thus transforming the letters chametz into matzah. Your wisdom will then not turn sour. So during Passover, right, Pesach, we get the chametz out of our homes, the leavening out of our homes, anything that was made that way, and we bring in the matzah. We make the matzah, right? So it's like the het being broken and turning into a hay. Okay, this is the connotation of rebuke, which conveys conflict. For the word matzah also implies conflict. The tzaddikim, the righteous ones, engage in matzuta, battle with the other side, or the sitra achra, in order to keep it from approaching the dwelling place of holiness. Zohar 251b, that is, when you protect your wisdom so that secular wisdom does not penetrate it, and you do not entertain evil thoughts, which is the kaneh, the reed of the other side, the sitra akra, in contrast to kaneh, the windpipe of holiness, that is, kaneh, wisdom, kaneh, understanding of holiness, you will be saved from the aspect of chametz, which is the side of death, as is stated in the Zohar. Machmetzet, it contains chametz and met. So they're saying that the word machmetzet if you divide that word up, you basically get chametz and met. So met is death, chametz is like the leavening, right? So, and believe that all strife and conflict between those tzaddikim who have reached perfection is only to dispel the other side. Okay, this is the meaning of Proverbs 15:31. He whose ear hears the reproof of life, talin, lodges among the wise. And just remember, there's the 4 different worlds, right? And as we go down, we go to eyes, ears. So he's talking about ears. So this is the world of Berea, right? He whose ears hears the reproof of life, talin, lodges among the wise. Talin is similar to taluna, complaint and conflict. Then you hear the tzaddikim arguing. Know that this is to let you hear reproof for becoming blemished, the drops of your mind. Concerning it, it is said in Proverbs 2:19, none that go to her return, nor do they regain the paths of life. You have become attached to the side of death, the aspect of chametz, which is leavening, of Gavriel descended. Sorry, what is that? Yeah. Know also that a reed has been plunged, intrinsic wisdom has been plunged into your sea of wisdom. And certainly, if your mind had not been blemished, you would not have been given to hear the conflicts among the tzaddikim. This conflict is only for your sake, in order that you return from death to life, from chametz to matzah, from het to hay, so that you repent from unwholesome fear to fear of his exaltedness, from a marred voice to a flawless voice, from blemished wisdom to complete and true wisdom. But when you guard your mind from the aspect of chametz, so that it does not become clogged, then your voice will strike your skull and be converted to thunder, and your heart's crookedness will be straight. Then you will merit joy, as in joy for the straight of heart. This is the meaning of Psalm 81, verse 8. When you called in secret, I answered you thunderously. I tested you at the waters of conflict. Salah. The waters of conflict are an aspect of matzah, of mentalities, mochin, right, through which thunder is generated. Know as well that a person must couple the gevurot, the severities, with chasadim, benevolence, left and right, as it is written in Psalm 20, verse 7, with the saving gevurot, strength of his right arm. For the main revelation comes about through the right, by means of chasidim, right, the right side, by means of chasidim, as is written in Psalm 110, verse 1, sit at my right hand while I make your enemies your footstool. It is likewise necessary to couple love with fear of heaven in order to generate thunder. This love is from the right side, from a mind as white as silver. Tikkun HaZohar, number 70, Siman 70. This is the meaning of when it turned morning, the sea returned to its might. Exodus 14:27. The sea alludes to the sea of wisdom. When it turned morning, this is the morning of Avraham. Zohar 2:170b. Corresponding to Avraham, my beloved, Isaiah 41, verse 8, to its might. This is Gevurot. Corresponding to the sound of your thunder was in the sphere. And this is Song of Songs 8:7. Many waters cannot extinguish the love, for the ability to conquer is mainly by means of love, as in, sit at my right. This is the explanation of Psalm 29, verse 3. The El, so God, the God of glory, thunders. El is chesed, loving kindness, and glory is wisdom. As it is written in Proverbs 3:35, the wise will inherit glory. Thunders alludes to the thunder. And in other words, the gevurot, an aspect of thunder, must be coupled with love so that they will strike the glory, the aspect of wisdom, and be converted into thunder. Then you will conquer your enemies, as in, sit at my right hand while I make your enemies your footstool. This is the explanation. So Rabbi Bar Chana, he's gonna recount it. He's telling you a story now, and this is a very mystical story in the Talmud, and this is what a lot of his teachings are based on. These are almost like incomprehensible stories. But anyway, Rabbi Bar Chana recounted, one time we were traveling on a ship. So the word there is safinta, to sail between a fish's two fins, shitza. Took the ship 3 days and 3 nights, even though it was swimming upwind and we were sailing downwind. Unless you think the ship was not sailing quickly, When Rav Dimi came, he said, in the time it takes to heat the kettle of water, it went 60 parse or parsangs, and a parsha rider shot an arrow, yet the ship preceded it. Rav Ashi said, this meaning fish, was a sea gildena, which has 2 fins. Bava Batra 73b. Safinta, this connotes importance. It corresponds to Gevura, fear, as it is written in Isaiah 33, verse 6. The fear of God is his treasure, for the fear of heaven is what is most important. Shitza, this connotes misfortune, as is written in Numbers 16:21. Separate yourselves from this congregation, I will destroy them in an instant. The Aramaic translation of "and I will destroy them" is Va'ashet Yashon. 3 days and 3 nights. This corresponds to the mitzvot, which are divided into 3 categories: the rational, the traditional based, and the statutes. Concerning them, it is written in Joshua 1:8, you shall study Torah day and night. It was swimming upward and we were sailing downwind. It was swimming upwind and we were sailing downwind. This corresponds to God rejoices in his works. Israel rejoices in its maker. In the time it takes to heat a kettle of water, this is the mind, as in, quote, in drops from Lebanon. It went 60 parse. This corresponds to Gevurot, 60 Geborim, or 60 mighty men. Song of Songs 3, verse 7. In the thunder of his strength. And a parsha shot an arrow. So parsha is the aspect of chesed, loving kindness. It refers to someone who brings to light that which is hidden, someone who mefaresh explains those matters which are obscure. An arrow, as in shoot your arrows and panic them. Psalms 144, verse 6. This corresponds to sit at my right hand while I make your enemies your footstool. The ship preceded it. This is the aspect of fear which precedes, for fear of heaven precedes all else. As is written in Psalms 111, verse 10, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. Reshit Chochma Yirat Hashem. Okay. Rabbi Bar Bar Chana recounted that he had delved so deeply into the attribute of fear of heaven and had seen the great power of this fear, that he was now able to use it to discern between before the decree had been issued and after the decree had been issued, between 2 shitza. He then explains how he could discern by means of the mitzvot, which are the aspect of 3 days. It is possible to discern, and this is only when one performs mitzvot with joy, for through the joy of the mitzvot it is possible to discern. This is because the Holy One rejoices in his works, and his joy is clothed in the mitzvot, as explained. And we below also rejoice in the Holy One, as in Israel rejoices in its Maker. We desire no reward, even the reward of the world to come. This is, it was swimming upwind and we were sailing downwind. Our joy below is in accordance with his joy above. In this way, we can discern whether it is before or after the decree has been issued. So Rabbi Bar Bar Chana then explains how to achieve this joy, by means of the aspect of thunder. This is when Rav Dimi came, he said, in the time it takes to heat a kettle of water, it went 60 parse. Corresponding to the sound of your thunder was in the sphere. And to, quote, the voice stimulates kavana. That's intention, right? 60 is an allusion to gevurot, which strike the skull and are converted into thunder, and then the voice is transmitted. This corresponds to the voice stimulates kavana, and to thunder was only created to strengthen the crookedness of the heart. He then said that in essence the conquering ability of the gevurot is only due to chassidim. Thus it is contrary to encompass the left within the right, as explained. But even so, a person must fear Even so, a person must put the fear of heaven first, because the owner of a lost object searches after what he has lost. As the sages taught, it is the way of the man to search after the woman. This is analogous to a person who has lost something, who searches after whom. Certainly the owner of the object searches after what he has lost. Kedushin 2b. The explanation of this is, man is the aspect of love, whereas woman is the aspect of fear, as is known. It is therefore necessary to put the fear of heaven first, as then love will automatically follow. For the love of God constantly goes out and searches after the fear of heaven, just as the owner of the object searches after what he has lost. This is, and a rider shot an arrow. So Rav Ashi said, this fish was a sea gildena, So Gildena alludes to the holy name Aleph Gimel Lamed Aleph, which is an aspect of Gevurot, in that it is an acronym for Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, you are almighty forever, O Lord, in the Amidah prayer, the Shemona Esrei, as is brought Zohar Chadash Teruma. Gildena is made up entirely of the letters Aleph Gimel Lamed and the holy name Adon, that is, the holy name Aleph Gimel Lamed Aleph. And this is what is alluded to by two fins. This is the explanation of the opening verse. With trumpets and the sound of the shofar, shout out before God the King, let the sea thunder and all within it. The Tevel, the world and all its inhabitants. Let the rivers clap their hands and mountains V'ranenu, sing joyously together at the presence of God, for he is coming to judge the earth. Psalms 98, 6-9. With trumpets and the sound of the shofar, that is by means of the voice that is released during prayer. Let the sea thunder. Thunder is generated. This corresponds to the sound of the thunder was in the sphere. The Tevel and all its inhabitants. This alludes to the heart and its arteries. Thunder was only created. Tevel is made up of the letters Tav, Lave, Tav. I don't know why it says Lave. Let me see. Hold on a second. I think that's a misprint. I don't know, but I'll go with it. Tevel is made up of the letters Tav, Lev, Tav. Connotes a mark, as is written in Ezekiel 9, verse 4. And Hit Vita, Tav, inscribe a mark. So the voice, in Ezekiel, that's referring to the angel went through the city and put a mark on all the people. So whenever it says mark, it's actually referring to the letter Tav in Hebrew. Okay, so the voice is imprinted on the heart, as in thunder was only created to straighten the crookedness of the lave, the heart. And because of this, let the rivers clap their hands. This alludes to joy as mentioned above, and joy for the straight of heart. And by means of this joy, the mountains, Yiranenu, together. So Rina connotes prayer, as it is written in 1 Kings 8:28. Hearken to the Rina and to the prayer. So mountains. This relates to the tzaddikim, so the righteous ones. By means of the heart's joy, they are able to pray. And once they realize that the judgment has already been decreed, they disguise their prayer in a ma'amar, or in words, right? This is the explanation of mountains together. The tzaddikim, the righteous, disguise their prayers together with the stories. So when he's talking about that, he's also talking about Rabbi Bar Bar Chana, how his entire stories are just cloaked in meaning. But anyway,